All right, guys, welcome back to the Changing the Narrative podcast. I'm your co-host, Dr. Gabriel Warren, along with Carl Benson. And today we have another special guest with us today, Carl Anthony Floyd Jr. And Carl, I'm glad to have you on the show. I know we go back a long way from all the way back to the college days. So, man, thank you for being a part of the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, man. Well, I know you very well, and for the listeners out there, they may not know this, but a small fact: Anthony and I actually went to school together. We ran track at the University of Alabama, and Anthony's also my cousin. So, it's just great to be able to have this conversation because I want people to be able to know all kind of men that are out here making an impact in their community. So, Anthony, could you start by just letting the listeners know a little bit about who you are, what you do professionally?
Yeah, um, I'm 39 years old. I'm I'm married, beautiful wife, um, with three beautiful girls. We have a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So I'm a girl dad. I'm very proud of that. Um, I've been teaching in K-12 public education for 12 years now. Um, I have I'm actually an ESL teacher. I'm bilingual in Spanish, and I teach in a suburban school district in a pretty affluent suburban school district in Alabama. And I coach track. I've coached track over the years. I'm currently not coaching, currently finishing up my PhD program at the University of Alabama at Birmingham and in educational studies. So balancing, full-time work, full-time dad and husband, and full-time student as well. So um, just trying to manage it all.
Awesome.
That's amazing. I will tell you, I'm kudos, congratulations to all. I mean, you're doing it, right? I mean, you're the perfect guest for a podcast called Changing the Narrative, right? I mean, we talk about how Black men are doing things that a lot of times you don't get, not you need credit or need a pat on the back for, but we're always excited to sort of talk to brothers like yourself who are doing it. Can you just let us know, like, what kind of motivates you to keep doing all this, right? I mean, what motivates you and drives you to not only do the teaching and the husband and obviously the father, all the things that you're doing. Just give us a little peek into how you're motivated to do those things on a daily basis.
I think number one, my family. I've had many successes in my life, and not one of those successes I've been able to achieve by myself. It's been key people in my lives. Of course, my wife. Through this journey, we've been married 5 years. So, and it's like I've been in the PhD program for 5 years. So we've been. Um, I started I started my PhD journey shortly after we got married. We were also pregnant, so I came into the program as a single man, and I will finish the program December 2024 as a married man with three little ones. So there's been a lot of change, and I couldn't have made this journey without her, first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost. And then every day that I get to see our girls and engage with them, they kind of remind me of why I'm going through this journey. My wife and I talk about that all the time, of us just being examples for them. Like, they really have no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my parents, very, very integral part of my life and my journey. They support us emotionally, um, spiritually, and at times financially. Um, and that's key. I think, the old adage is that it takes a community. It surely does. It's easier when you have a community of individuals, of family that you can depend on.
Mm-hmm.
So I do it all for them. I often, when I'm not head in the books trying to write, I often think about, just what I'm going to write in my just in my statements for my PhD, just acknowledging all of the people that's kind of helped me along the way.
Right.
And it's definitely family. I'm a man of God. I believe that God has given me some things to do on the earth, and also do it for Him, for the kingdom. Um, I do it for the communities that I'm blessed to work with each and every day. I'm an ESL teacher, so I teach students that are learning English. So
Okay.
I feel like God has allowed me to touch all parts of the world just through the students that I come into contact with each and every day. So I also do it for them. I think early on in my career, I asked God, well, how is it my role to beat them over the head with the Bible, or to try to sway them one way or the other? Because I mean, my students they come from various backgrounds, culturally, spiritually. And he told me, he said, no, it's just to be the light, to just kind of show them my love through you. Each and every day that I engage with them, I just try to be loving. And you know maybe I never have to mention God, I never have to mention Jesus, but I believe that they see His love through me. So I do it. They're also a big part of it. And I love public education. I think once I finish my PhD, I will try to transition to higher ed. But this is definitely my passion, working with young people and their families.
That's amazing. And tell me again how long you've been a teacher?
12 years now.
12 years. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So you kind of answered this a little bit, man, in the last question, but you know, you talked about, being able to impact people from different backgrounds and being able to, kind of be that light. But in what other ways do you try to get back to your community? I know you do coaching, but are there other things too, in addition to that you do to try to give back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm bilingual, so I have native like proficiency in Spanish. So over the years, I've worked closely with Hispanics in our communities, whether it be in Tuscaloosa, our time in Tuscaloosa, and to transitioning here in Birmingham, Alabama. Um, there's lots of initiatives that we partner with the school district, that we provide, that we do over the summertime. So whether that's helping families complete registration over the summer, connecting them with resources in our local community. So I'm really able to volunteer my time and my skill set, particularly my language skill set, to supporting members of the Hispanic community. I've prior to I guess right up to COVID, to the first COVID year, I coached track and field with the school, with the high school that I teach at, but I also coach summer track. It's a local summer track team, Speed City, very successful program. And I've been able to just kind of volunteer with that and just reaching out, connecting with families from there. So
Very cool. Yeah. There's no doubt that you don't fit what we like to talk about. Change the narrative again. You clearly are just so different than most men that we have not only talked to, but from the standpoint of just having a conversation. Being bilingual is something that I'm currently in the process of trying to learn Spanish for like the 10th time probably. So I understand that difficulty, right? But clearly, tell us more about maybe some misconceptions that others have, not necessarily of you, but if you want to go that route, you can. But more Black men in general, just kind of something you'd probably like to talk about a little bit, but then also how could we eradicate it if we could, or that we should eradicate? Just tell us a little bit more about what it means to sort of be a misconceptions of a Black man.
I think some of the misconceptions is that there's no variance. You know, I think maybe some of the conversation is that all Black men are the same. We're either very strong or something's wrong with us and we're weak. You know, I think we all come in different shapes and sizes. We have different backgrounds and experience, you know, skill sets and things. And I'm learning that, and my wife and we just had a conversation today about this. There's not one that's greater than the other. I think we're all valuable, and I think that's our fight. I believe we spend so much of our energy trying to convince others that we're valuable, without understanding that yes, we are indeed valuable, and it's not for us to convince the others, because in some cases they can't be convinced. You know, they've already have their mind made up. It's for us to use that energy to commit to our journey, commit to the steps that we're taking every day, and just being the best version of ourselves, and lifting up each other, surrounding ourselves with like-minded individuals, other men that, you know, are trying to grow, trying to achieve each and every day. I think my inner circle of men, they're fathers, they're husbands, they either have their doctorate, they're working towards something, you know, because in my weakest moments, those are the people that I reach out to have those conversations. Like, man, I'm struggling, I'm behind, I'm afraid to open up my email to just see what's there, because I haven't communicated with my chair, my dissertation committee chair in a week, you know. And those individuals, they say, hey man, you got this, you can do it, you know. And we're all doing different things, but we're all being, you know, striving to be excellent in whatever area. So I think if we focus more on ourselves rather than trying to convince others, I think that energy would be well spent, because like I stated earlier, I think in some cases, some people, you can't convince them. They already have their mind made up. It's for us to walk it out. And in the end, to say, okay, here I am, you know.
Right.
So that's just kind of my take. It's a little different, and it kind of stemmed from just some of the conversations that my wife and I had this morning, just as we were traveling from out of town.
Right.
Cool. No, man, that's
Could I
good.
follow real quick? I follow up on just I did a question because it's just in my mind right now. As a girl dad, because I always like when guys have daughters and whatnot, because it's kind of fun to. I have a daughter as well, but do you find yourself modeling the behaviors, and maybe it's both, of what they should see in a man or what they should see in a Black man? Or does that even sink to you, like from a girl's perspective? Because I'm always like, well, I want my daughter to be treated a certain way, but then I also want her to be treated that way by anybody. But as Black men
Yeah,
with daughters, sometimes you think, yeah. I'm just curious. I'm totally off script,
that
and you can.
I mean,
I'm
that's
just
an
curious.
excellent question. I
Mm,
haven't broken it down in such a dichotomy as saying, you know, as a Black man or a man, but I think
mhm,
just ingrained in that is when my example to them is definitely of a Black man. And um excuse me, when I model myself after my father. My father is a
Okay.
very, very unique man. He he has his quirks, but I mean, that's my father, you know. And just over the years, as I've gotten older, as I've become a husband and a father, I've I've seen things that I didn't see before. You know, I think back to when we were my dad is retired military. He served 26 years in the army. So just I can recall going to the commissary, that's the military
Mhm.
grocery store. Um, and when we were coming out, he would always bring the car around to the front. You know, that's something that's not very, it may not seem very significant, but that stuck with me. Like if it's raining, he would do certain things, you know, and those kind of things are what I held on to and said, though, when I have a wife, when I have my family, I'm gonna take care of my family the same way that I saw my father take care of his, the little things.
Right.
Um, he, so I try to model myself um, a lot after him in terms of how I care for my family, how I take care of business, making sure that everything's in place, everything's organized. Um, and my wife has said, like, I don't like when you go out of town. Like there's things that you know aren't always obvious that we both do, our roles,
Mhm.
that when I'm out of town, she's like, oh man, I gotta pick up that slack, I gotta take the trash out, I gotta do XYZ. So I try to model that, you know, maybe not um directly consciously, like I'm not saying, oh, I need to do this, but when I do have moments to think, I say, what do I want my girls to see? um
Right.
and I think, man, the COVID years, those were rough. So I was at home with my daughters, and they were we it was just our oldest two. And my wife, she works at UAB, so she still had to report to work. So it was just me and my girls, our two girls at the time. And when I was in it, that was some of the hardest things that I've had to deal with. You know, um, two very young toddlers, trying to balance teaching from home because we were virtual, and just spending every day mentally knowing that, man, my wife, she's leaving the house. She won't come back till, you know, she won't be back in the house till 5 o'clock this evening. So that's, you know, 9 hours, 8, 9 hours of just me and the girls, you know,
Right.
and that I look at it now and I'm like, man, I thank God for that time, because that's something that no one can take away from us. Just the bond that we built with over that time with daddy and the girls, like it's something I don't know how I would have been able to develop that any other way. You know, it was so great to be home with them during that time period, and then everything was me. You know, I had to come up with the activities, the crafts, the um I don't know how many cups of tea I drank, you know, with them. Um but those are the things that I think of when I say how I want to model for them. I want to be present. That's the first thing that I want to model. Like good men are present in the lives of the people that they love, whether it's your own children or, you know, your friends or other family members. I think we're present, and I think in terms of changing the narrative, I think first and foremost we have to be present. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People can't learn anything about themselves or others if they're not faced with it. So I think in my school district, it's a primarily white school district, Caucasian, um, affluent. school district. So me as a Black male who advocates for immigrant students, who is bilingual, those are so many different intersections right there. And I'm not just, yes, I was a teacher and a coach, but I've always viewed myself as a teacher first. So our school district is very has been very successful in athletics, and I believe that the role that I played in coaching, assistant coach to track and field, like added to that. And people have told me that over the years, and continue to tell me that they constantly bang my door to see if I can come back out there. But I'm grateful that I feel like they value me in that aspect as a coach. But I always remind them, like, hey, I'm a teacher first. Like, I value the thing that pays my salary, that says educator on it. It doesn't say coach on it. So I really try to put emphasis on that and being present. So when they see Carl, they know Carl as, intelligent, articulate, knowledgeable in the classroom, but then they see me interact with the kids on the track, and they know that, I'm a former collegiate athlete. So, and then they hear, oh man, Carl, you're working on your PhD. So it's all of these intersections that I think my presence, it helps people see, like, yeah, that ain't what I'm used to. It's not just one
Right.
one lane, or you're not just occupying one lane as just a coach or an athlete or an aide. Like, no, I'm one of the individuals that is invited to district meetings to speak on, directions of curriculum, things like that. I'm brought into the fold. And I think as people have been around me and seen my desire, my passion, work ethic, and attention to detail, excellence, etc., that has opened doors for me to be present in other areas that I get to kind of start changing mindsets by just my presence. So I think I kind of got off on a tangent, but
No, I appreciate it. I love it. Love it. Thank you so much. I threw that in there. I appreciate the time on that one.
Yeah, no man, that's good, man. So, clearly, you've been successful, and I know a lot of times, when you're in the thick of things and you're doing stuff, and you may not be where you want to be yet, it's easy to not necessarily say, "Hey, I'm a success," but you clearly are. You're making an impact in the classroom, in the community. You talked about with your family. So I'm curious, how do you define success? Like, I know it could change at different seasons of life, but currently where you are right now, if you had to define success, how would you define that?
I think I would start off by saying, you know, are you finding your peace in the process, and where you are, where you want to go? Are you seeing progress um towards those goals? Because I think in life we should always have goals, different levels, different stages of our lives. Um so in this current um stage of my life, success is definitely trying to finish this program, trying to figure this doctorate. And my wife reminds me of that all the time. Like, I know, like, we've been at this thing for a long time now. Like so for me, finding success, like how I define it, I guess. And right now where I'm at in life is that I can finish the journey. I can finish what I set out to do. with all of the hardships, all of the turns and twists, and that I've held on to my peace throughout it. Because I mean, this journey has been rough. I mean, like I told y'all, I started the program as a single man. I went from 1 to 2, 3, like that was back to back, So I gained my wife, then we gained our first child, and then number 2 came, and number 3 came. So that, I think, success is that your peace, definitely maintaining your peace throughout the entire journey. Because for me, if I make it to my destination, but I lose my peace along the way, it wasn't worth it. I'm not in my right mind. I'm not healthy mentally, physically, or emotionally and spiritually. So for me, I think success is peace, progress, so that you can see, like, yeah, I've moved forward. It may not be what someone else may think, as far as maybe what others may say I should be, but I am progressing. I'm growing. I think growth, when I define a success, I see growth is part of that process. Have I grown? How have I become better? How have I gotten closer to God in all of this, all of these journeys, ups and downs. So I think for me, that's how I define success. It's, have I maintained my peace? Do I have signs of progress and growth? And how it all fits into my role on this earth, and like that's the God factor of it all. And so I try to apply that to my family, to my professional life, and then to my life as a scholar as well.
Very cool. I mean, the way you spoke about your father feels like he might be a mentor to you. But are there other mentors in your life, or what does mentoring mean to you in this process of living? Do you have one now other than your father, and how does that work, or are you for someone else?
Yeah, I have mentors. Of course, my father, all of the men in my life. Well, not all of the men, but on my mother's side, my mother has, I think, it's 9 of them. So I have a couple of uncles, I think 4 or 5 uncles on my mom's side. I have one uncle that's living on my dad's side. And when I growing up with them, when I see them just over the years, just them modeling what it means to be a man, them modeling what it means to care for your family, just having them, that's been very, very important, very impactful for me. My maternal grandfather, I had him in my life growing up. My paternal grandfather, he passed away before I was born. So definitely the men in my family, they have been mentors over the years. And then high school, when I got into high school, um, Coach Furl, I mean, he was one of the assistant football coaches, but he happened to be he came out to be our track coach. Coach Pearl didn't know anything about track. He just knew, run fast, work hard, but I mean, my junior year, Coach Ben Harris, he brought with him, it was a black man, Ben Harris, a staff of other black men, as assistant coaches underneath him. And that was the first time that I saw men, professional men outside of my family. I've had my uncles and all that, but it's different when I saw them in quote unquote the real world. Like, so Coach Farrell, he's kind of one of the pieces that kind of got me into desiring to be an educator, and then when I got into college, undergraduate and graduate school, just I've had mentors, Dr. Jimmy Williams, when I was at Alabama, and then in Tuscaloosa, also Bishop L. Spencer Smith, just his tutelage and just other men, Spates and Dooley. So yes, I've had I've been blessed with a lot of positive men in my life, that spoke, that helped me in different times of my life, in different stages of my life. They had the right word. And then the second part of your question, do I mentor? Yes, I have two of my former athletes, high school athletes, that they are now running track at D1 universities, and we keep up. We talk about stuff. We talk about, of course, track and field, but we talk about just life. They call me, they text me. So, and that was one thing that I really valued about coaching. That's one thing that I miss. I miss most, the relationships outside of the classroom. And that was an opportunity for me to connect with other kids. Most of a day is spent with teaching speakers of other languages, teaching English to speakers of other languages. So when I stepped out on the track, I was able to work with more kids that looked like me, excuse me. And so that was an opportunity for me to build relationships with them, share from my experience as a collegiate athlete, and just kind of give what I have, everything that I have. Like, hey, if you want it, you want to take something from it, you can, and just making myself available. But two young men in particular, I still keep up with, and just just try to do my best of being the best example for anyone and everyone.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah, man, this has been awesome, man, Anthony. I mean, I think we've covered so much, and we're getting down to the last question here. But in hearing your interview and hearing the way you answer some of these questions, I definitely think that I'm glad we had you on the podcast, because you've changed the narrative in so many different spaces, and I think people need to know that, which is why we wanted to have you on, because again, being a Black man, being a teacher, being bilingual, giving back to communities outside of even the Black community, I think that in and of itself, I think, needs to be celebrated, because you're doing so much that people don't think about when they think about Black men. So I really appreciate you for kind of being transparent and kind of sharing with us a little bit about your journey. But before we go, I would like to kind of leave the audience with you kind of sharing a little bit about, like, what would you want the world to know about what it means to be a Black man in America? You talked about the variances, talked about, everybody's not the same, but if there was one message that you wanted to drive home, knowing that people are listening to this, trying to understand what it means to be a Black man in our country and in our world, what would that message be that you would like for them to know?
Wow. How do I unpack that? I think that Black men are just as valuable as any other man that you know that they know of, or that you know of. I think Black men are intelligent, Black men are loving, Black men are kind. Um, Black men, like we human, we're not animals. Like we have feelings. Um, we've been able to put on an extra layer of protection out of necessity, but we hurt, we bleed, we cry, and it's heavy. Like it's heavy. If it wasn't for, in my experience, having someone like my wife at home, where I can take off all of this extra layer when I get home and cry, or take off the expectation, because I think in some cases, successful Black men, we bear the brunt of maybe our community, the whole Black community, of our family expectations, whether we're successful, educationally, we're successful athletically. I think the weight, and I see that with so many of our young men, who may excel in the athletics. Like it's heavy. And I think what I would want for the world to know about the Black man is we're just as vulnerable as you, but we're just as strong as you. You know, we're really no different, but we do need to be acknowledged. We need you to acknowledge our intelligence. We need you to acknowledge our gentleness. We need you to acknowledge our strength, our creativity, all of those things. Because I think when only certain aspects of whatever adjectives you want to place on Black men is acknowledged, it creates a distortion that makes us imbalanced. The younger generations are trying to live up to something that's false, a false narrative. So we try to be hard, we try to be this or that, and at the end of the day, like, we are the ones that are having to, or our spouses, or our the closest people in our lives are the ones that are having to build us back up, or to nurse us back to health, because of all of these things we're trying to undo, and all of these things we're trying to prove. So I think if the world would see the Black man in a different light, like, as strong as we are, we're vulnerable. As intelligent as we are, we make mistakes. And my mistake does not reflect on Dr. Gabriel Warren. Like, it's not, it was my mistake. I made a bonehead decision, but that doesn't mean that all Black men will make this same decision. Just like all white men don't make the same bonehead decisions. I'm not the representative of the Black community. Yes, I'm a member of the Black community, but I'm not the representative of it. I don't have all the answers for the Black community. I can only speak from my perspective. And I think if they are willing to kind of see us as human, I think that's helpful.
That's good, man. I'm glad I asked that question. So We'll end it there, man, because I know that there's a lot more that we could say and a lot more that we could talk through. But, I definitely want to thank you for, being a part of the podcast, man, and helping us to change the narrative of what it means to be a Black man. So, this has been so enjoyable for me. And I hope it's been for our listeners too. I know it will be just from them listening to things, but thank you for being a part of the show, man. This is amazing. So I'm glad that you gave us some time tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you. Right on.